So I just read chapter 1 in Michael Jordan: The Life by Roland Lazenby, and it's a really interesting chapter. It's called Holly Shelter, and it kind of goes back to Michael Jordan's great granddad, and that was kind of surprising. I didn't think it would go back that far, and it really touched me actually, because the description of North Carolina, I think, is where his great granddad was born. The description of those times and the poverty and the racism, they were castrating black people or something as a punishment, or slaves as a punishment. And I think they had just kind of got out of slavery a little bit, and just the poverty that most people were in, even the white people in that area. And the poverty, and I guess there were only a few landholders or something, and his great granddad was crippled, and but he was a very strong man. He was very hardworking and pulled through and really wanted to kind of create a family. And it was kind of sad because he married this girl and had a son, and then immediately after the birth, his wife contracted some illness, which at the time, tuberculosis, which was fatal at the time, and she died when the son was 1 year old. And it just it sounds so crazy, in this modern world. It's just over 100 years ago. Not that long ago. If we're talking about Michael Jordan's great granddad. So it's not that long ago, and we live in a time now where it's we take these things for granted, that the majority of us have shelter, we have healthcare, we have money enough to live. In fact, we have the opposite issue of obesity and overweightness and unhealthiness in that way. And I guess I don't always appreciate how much things have changed in the world since then. Sure, there's still poverty in the world, but I feel there was more back then in all countries, including Western countries, and there were, the economy was down and a lot. And even now we complain about the economy being down, but it's not as bad. Healthcare has improved greatly in 100 years, and common welfare and stuff feels like it's improved, to be honest. But I was just really surprised, and it was about the strength of Michael Jordan's great granddad to kind of pull through, and he still wanted the family. So, and his mom died also, and it was interesting because his mom was, I don't know if they explained it properly, but it kind of stood out to me that his mom was somebody who was kind of adopted or something. I don't know, but she was part of a bigger family. The surname of the family was a well-known family in that area who were a white family. They were all lighter skinned. And she was the only one. Well, no, the son was the only one who was the darker skinned. I don't know. Maybe she was white. I don't know. But she had this son with a guy called Dick Jordan, and her surname was Hand, and so the son took on the name Jordan, even though she wasn't married to Jordan. And that's how the surname comes about. But that's kind of interesting. And it's interesting, because he took that surname because there was this unspoken thing of oh yeah, you're the sibling who is the dark colored sibling. And I think they admitted it. There's something about it in the chapter where the family admits that he was the darker skinned sibling, and it was said out loud or something, and eventually he took the surname Jordan, which is really interesting because if that didn't happen, if he didn't decide that, or whoever decided that didn't decide that, then he he would be called Jordan. He wouldn't be called Jordan. Maybe he'd be called Hans, and maybe Michael Jordan would be called Michael Hans. Yeah, so the chapter doesn't really go into that, but like I just thought about that now, which is quite interesting. And just the hard work and the kind of longing of an escape from the brutality of your life and the real world and the environment that you live in is something really relatable that I can relate to. But at the same time, the book or the chapter draws comparisons between Michael Jordan also had that, and the basketball court was the only place that he could seek refuge from that, the real world and the kind of pressures and the terror of whatever reality that you're living in. And I don't quite understand that yet because I haven't maybe read further on. I don't understand how Michael Jordan's life was like really bad. I mean, maybe it was, but that's yet to come in the book. That I'm gonna maybe understand. But his great granddad definitely, from like I just explained, had a very difficult life. Because I forgot to mention his mom passed away like after his wife passed away. So then he was just left with him and his son, and and a kind of lonely existence. But he was strong and kind of persevered through that. And you kind of had to be at that time, I guess. And like, I can't imagine. I would be distraught if that was me. But I really like that parallel though, like that Jordan escaped to the basketball court and that was the only place where he could feel free, and he put his all into that, and that was like why he maybe did it. But at the same time, like they drew a parallel to that in the chapter, as the great granddad kind of did that with work. So he would kind of be rafting or something, like something to do with rafts and working in the rivers, and maybe lying down on the raft and looking up in the stars was like the only escape that he had from the brutality of his life. So maybe there was some creativity in terms of like making a little bit of that up in some way, but I think it's probably true that he did seek kind of escape from reality in work, and I'm sure a lot of people did that at that time. But I just thought it was really poetic to hear that comparison, and that kind of really stood out to me as well. And it's kind of makes me want to read on more, actually, surprisingly. And like, as in, this is nothing to do with the man, the myth kind of thing, or like the fame and the basketball and everything, but it's just really interesting to hear that a couple of generations before this crazy sort of 90s era Michael Jordan, life was so different for this family. And and the bit that right at the end that kind of made me want to read the next chapter is that it talks about like his great granddad, who's actually called Dawson Jordan, and his son, that they so like they, time would reveal that they still bequeathed a great deal to the next generation. They did so despite another legacy lurking in the haze of Cape Fear, something insidious and even surreal. So I'm just looking to what that actually means. Like, another legacy kind of points towards Michael Jordan, but something insidious and even surreal, I have no idea what that could be. Something kind of ominous and kind of scary in their life. So like, it was already so bad, and to kind of have something worse coming is kind of a bit ominous, really. So very interesting, very different to kind of what I would have thought, and I am looking forward to the next chapter.